Okay, good morning, friends and Pak Jimmy. So we are from home group 4 and we're gonna present about the Tikp B for development. And in today's presentation, we will present about the UNDP goals, which is goals 8, 9, and 10. My name is Naufal, and we're gonna present with Pasha and Raihan. So next slide is there are 3 goals. The first goal is goal 8, which is about decent work and economic growth. And then the goal 9 is industry, innovation, and infrastructure. And the next goal is goal 10, which is reduce inequality. And after we discuss all of that, we're gonna summarize it and explain it to you. So now we are discussing about the goal 8, which is about decent work and economic growth. So over the past 25 years, the number of workers living in extreme poverty are dramatically declined. Despite the lasting impact of the 2008 economic crisis and recession, in developing countries, the middle class makes up more than 34% of the employment, a number that almost tripled between 1991 to 2015. However, as the global economy continues to recover, we are seeing slower growth, which widening the inequalities and not enough jobs to keep up with the growing labor force. According to ILO, more than 204 million people are unemployed in 2015. The SDGs, which is conveyed by the UN, promote sustained economic growth, higher levels of productivity and technological innovation, which encourage entrepreneurship and job creating are key to this. As our effective measure to eradicate forced labor, slavery, and human trafficking. With this target in mind, the goal is to achieve full and productive employment, decent work for all women and men by 2030. Next slide. Okay, now we're gonna discuss about the goal 8 target, which is roughly have 10 targets. The first one is to maintain economic growth at least 7% in GDP. The second one is to achieve higher level of economic productivity and provide high added value and labor intensive. The third one is to promote development policies that support productive activities. The fourth one is until 2030, we want to increase progressively the economic growth, and in 2030, we want to achieve permanent and productive employment for all men and women. Next slide. And then the sixth one is in 2020, the SDG want to reduce the proportion of young people who are unemployed without education or training. And then the seventh one, we want to take a swift action to eradicate forced labor, slavery, and trafficking. And by 2025, the SDG targets to end child labor in all of its form. The eighth one is to protect labor rights and promote safe and secure work to all workers, which works in a hazardous place. The ninth one is in 2030, SDG want to develop and implement a policy to promote sustained tourism that creates jobs and promotes local culture and products. And the 10th one, which is last target, SDG want to strengthening the capacity of domestic financial institution to encourage and expand the banking, insurance, and financial service for all. And then we move to the next slide. Okay, so we already know what are the targets, and we're not gonna discuss all of the targets because it's too much, but we just focus to just one target, which is the target 8.5, which by 2030, SDG aims to achieve full and productive employment and decent work for all women and men, including young people and person with disability, equal pay for work and equal value. So we want to find the equality in working place. The indicator is the ratio of workers to workforce population based on gender, age groups, and people with disability, because we have to relate to the target. And it is from the goal 8, of course. The category, it is most ready one. The data required is LPR or labor participation rate. The source is for the data is from ILO and BPS we're gonna use. And the next one is the data level is national scale. Next slide. Now we will talk about the EPR, or employment to population ratio. So one of the key important indicator in global market is EPR, and in national basis, in February 2015, the EPR was about 65.46%, and you can interpret it by out of 100 people age 15 and above, there are 65 people who work in February 2015. And if you look at the graph, this EPR has an increase if we look at the August 2014 and February 2014, which each of them scores about 2.82 points and for 0.23. It's the increasing. And then move to the next indicator. So male EPR is higher than female EPR because you know that EPR stands for employment to population rate, and in Indonesia itself, male tend to have more opportunities in having an employment rather than female. And also rural EPR is higher from EPR in urban areas. Why? Because in urban areas the competition is quite tight, so it is harder to get employed in the urban areas rather than in rural areas. And then the last one is EPR of the young age group is lower than EPR of the adult age group. Yeah, because there are some factors that we will discuss in the next slide. Okay, so next slide. Okay, now we're gonna discuss about factors affecting employment situation. So more than 70% of young people work in the informal employment sector. So many researchers identify that most jobs in informal employment are generally in low productivity activities where income is low and variable. So this affects the economic growth because if you work at informal sector, it's not included in the GDP. And informal sector is very big. It has the biggest share in employment. So the example of informal is like pedagang kaki lima, bengkel, etc. And most of young people works there. So that's why it affects the employment situation. And then the next one. Okay, so in the former slide, you guys wondered that why young age group has lower EPR than the older one. So when company wants to recruit young people, they usually require some work experience, but more than 80% of job seekers, which is young people between age 15 to 24, doesn't have it. So that's why company tend to more recruit in older people rather than in younger one, because older people has a better work experience. So that's why the younger has the lower EPR. And then 54% of the workforce only have primary education or lower, and only 5.5% of the population in Indonesia attain high education. So that's also affect the employment situation and also the economic growth, because the people, if they have high education, they can be more productive. But unfortunately, in Indonesia, we only have 5.5% people who attain high education. And then there are also still the perception of appropriate gender roles and the division of responsibilities between men and women. It always influences the position of women and their opportunities within the labor force. So in Indonesia, we still have the perception like male is more superior than girl, so that's why it affects the employment situation. So next slide. Okay, so in order to achieve the goal 8, which is decent work and economic growth, there are some things that government should do, and one of them is Kartu Prakerja program. So what is it? Kartu Prakerja is a training expense aid for Indonesian people who want to have or improve their skills. It's designed as a product this program is packaged in such way as to provide value for users while providing value to the private sector also. And who are the parties who can use this Prakerja program? So laborers, employees, and all citizens of the nation aged 18 years and over, which are not in school or college. So those people who can get the Kartu Prakerja program. What are the goals? So there are 4 goals. So the first goal is to help reduce the training costs borne by workers and companies, and then also reducing the cost of finding information about training, and encourage one's work through reducing mismatch. And the last one is to become a complement to a formal education. Next slide. So for the evaluation and improvement, the first one is evaluation. So I think Kartu Prakerja is a good social program from the government to boost employment in the nation, but there are also several evaluations such as the distribution issues and unclear selection process. And it is also quite not on target because some people said that direct cash assistance or BLT bantuan langsung tunai is more needed for the people, especially in COVID-19 outbreak. So there are some recommendations that we would like to give. I think government should re-engineering the concept of Kartu Prakerja because according to ICW, the training that provided by the Kartu Prakerja is quite not relevant to today's situation because there are lots of program that is similar are provided free in digital platforms such as YouTube. So I think government better to re-engineering the program, like to find a new concept and find other kind of trainings. And then the selection process must be addressed. Okay, so according to the news, I think I read it on Kompas. When government want to choose who got the Kartu Prakerja, rather than they select it by the document, they select it just they conduct random selection, so it's not good. And then government should open a tender for the training service provider, so therefore the transparency can be achieved, not just government like pick one tender but they do not give the chance to other parties. And then government should also give training to digital technology to equip youth for entering industry 4.0. So yeah, we know that today's digital industry is booming, so government should give training to digital technology, and to support their digital service, government should invest in ICT infrastructure such as broadband, connectivity, and other, because Indonesia's connectivity is ranked worse than Singapore, which is our neighbor. So yeah, government should invest in its infrastructure for ICT. And the next slide is my reference. So I took 4 websites for the reference, and I think that's all from me. Thank you.
Greetings everyone, my name is Rehan Dahananto Ariadi, and right now I'm going to talk about goal number 9, which is about industry, innovation, and infrastructure, with the title called Build Resilient Infrastructure, Promote Inclusive and Sustainable Industrialization, and Foster Innovation. So here there are about around 5 targets. First of all, I'm going to talk about target number 1, which is about developing a quality, reliable, sustainable, and resilient infrastructure, which is to support the economic development and human well-being with a focus on affordable and equitable access for all. Moving on to the second target, it is to promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization, and by 2030 significantly raise industry's share of employment and GDP in line with national circumstances and double its share in least developed countries. And then the third target is to increase the access of small scale industrial and other enterprises, in particular developing countries, to financial services, including affordable credit, and their integration to value chain and markets. Moving on to the fourth target, which is by 2030, upgrade infrastructure and retrofit industries to make them sustainable with increased resource efficiency and greater adoption of clean and environmentally sound technologies and industrial processes, with all countries taking action in accordance with their capabilities. So here, to the last target, which is target number 5. Its target is to enhance scientific research, upgrade the technological capabilities of industrial sectors in all countries, in particular developing countries, including by 2030, encouraging innovation and substantially increasing the number of research and development workers per 1 million people. And moving on to 9A, it is to facilitate sustainable and resilient infrastructure development in developing countries through enhanced financial technological and technical support to African countries, least developed countries, and landlocked developing countries. And 9B, to support the target number 5, is to support domestic technology development, research, and innovation in developing countries. And moving on to 9C, it is to significantly increase access to information and communication technology and strive to provide universal and affordable access to the internet in least developed countries by 2020. So here are the targets of industry, innovation, and infrastructure created by the UNDP. So, in Indonesia, there's 3 industry, innovation, and infrastructure, which is the air, road, and train. So here, as you can see, there are about 4 companies focusing on the railroads, toll roads, and trains. So here first, there's MRT Jakarta, and there's Angkasa Putra Airports, Jasa Marga, and Kereta Api. So these are the 4 dominant companies in these division. So the constructions of Jakarta's MRT, airport, railways, and flood control tunnel. So here is the focus of infrastructure for Indonesia, and proposed public railways and storm water infrastructure, or PRASTI tunnel, 19 meters in diameter, will stretch approximately 9 kilometers. The first and second levels can be used for MRT and airport rail transportation, and the lowest level as a flood control tunnel. So there's also 2 transportation that is also being focused on creating, which is the Trans-Papua and the Trans-Java toll roads. So, for the National Strategic Port Facilities and Railway Project, there are 2, which is the Madiun Kedung Banteng double track project in East Java, which is part of the Trans-Java Railway Project, and the Makassar Parepare Railway construction in South Sulawesi, which is part of the Trans Sulawesi project. So moving on by the roads infrastructure. So the government has set a target of adding 3,650 kilometers of new road, carrying out a maintenance to 46,770 kilometers of existing transport is aimed at construction of existing road, and there's a share of about 9.7 billion US dollars that is allocated for urban transport that is aimed at constructing bus rapid transit or BRT in 29 cities. So now at the moment, Jasa Marga is a dominant player in the toll roads, as you can see. So in all toll roads, you can see Jasa Marga's logo everywhere. That means it means that they are dominating the toll roads. And Waskita Karya and Hutama Karya has been very active in acquiring 6 out of 19 total sections of the Trans-Java network. And Hutama Karya has been given an assignment to develop the Trans-Sumatra Toll Road project. So here's the recommendation for the roads. Is the success of the roads program requires implementation of availability payment based on PPP contracts and the creation of an open and transparent market to encourage private or international bidders to participate in the sector. Moving on to the rail infrastructure. So the government has set a target of adding 3,258 kilometers to the existing railway network. This will require about 23.9 billion US dollars of investment between 2015 and 2019. Okay, so in addition, a share of 9.7 billion US dollar allocated for urban transport is aimed at constructing MRT in 6 metropolitan cities and 17 large cities across Indonesia. Second, the Kereta Api plans to further improve its freight transportation services in Java and Sumatra and expand its passenger services through its involvement in the Jakarta-Bandung High-Speed Train Project, or LRT, in Greater Jakarta and South Sumatra, and airport train projects in Java. So the recommendation for them is the public sector requires improved capability for planning, developing, and managing rail projects, and need to develop mechanisms to increase the involvement of private or international players. So moving on to air infrastructure. So the government has set a target of about 13.9 billion of investment in the airport sector, including maintenance and of existing airports and the construction of new airports and air traffic controls facilities. So Angkasa Putra 1 and 2 are undertaking a multi-billion dollar capital investment programs across more than half of the 26 airports. The Ministry of Transport is building 15 new airports and improving 10 existing airports with state funds. So here are the upcoming airport projects created by the government. So therefore, with Soekarno-Hatta already being built. So the first one is the Kertajati Airport in Bandung. The second is Yogyakarta Airport, with Yogyakarta being the most destined place by tourists before Bali. And the third one is the second Jakarta Airport in Karawang, which is being rumored, and this still being questioned because a single international airport is actually already good for Jakarta, and it doesn't need a second airport. And fourth is the Halim Airport, developed by Lion Air, which is also being rumored, and improving 10 existing airports with state funds. So here are the upcoming airport projects created by the government. So therefore, with Soekarno-Hatta already being built. So the first one is the Kertajati Airport in Bandung. The second is Yogyakarta Airport, with Yogyakarta being the most destined place by tourists before Bali. And the third one is the second Jakarta Airport in Karawang, which is being rumored, and this still being questioned because a single international airport is actually already good for Jakarta, and it doesn't need a second airport. And fourth is the Halim Airport, developed by Lion Air, which is also being rumored. And this is this construction is being slowed down as it is near to the city center as a constraint. So the development of the airport is being slowed down. And the recommendation is the market requires greater city clarity on the government strategy for expanding airport capacity. So here are the reference from the from the information that I got. So moving on to the next slide. Thank you.
So next we'll discuss goal 10, which is to reduce inequality within and among countries. So actually goal 10 itself consists of 10 other sub-goals, as you can see here. But here we will just choose to discuss one of the goals, which is the 10.3, which is to ensure equality and reduce inequalities of outcome. And this table shows the classification measurement of our research and findings, where again the target or goal is to ensure equality and reduce inequalities of outcome, where the indicator is the female to male ratio at the educational level. And the data gathered is from BPS, which is the school participation rate by gender in 2017. So the ideals of the establishment of NKRI since 1945 independence is to educate nation's life through education. And the governments have provided various development education programs such as Bantuan Operasional Sekolah BOS, Program Indonesia Pintar, and many others. And this is all the educational development programs are included in the National Education Development Long-Term Plan, or RPPNJP, from 2005 till 2025. And the goal is to ensure development is achieved by all residents with better quality of education without differentiating the gender. And the achievement indicators we choose to use is the average length of schools of students in Indonesia. And the real programs that we choose is the Program Indonesia Pintar by the government. This program Indonesia Pintar was first published back then in 2014 by President Joko Widodo. And the program is designed to help school-age students aged 6 to 20 years old to help them get through the educational levels and services for both the formal and educational levels. And the main beneficiaries are the students whose families have KKS, Kartu Keluarga Sejahtera, also if they are more in the poor economic condition, those who are from the victims of disasters in the orphanage, and many other related. And the main goal of this program Indonesia Pintar is to ensure continuation of education level for both male and female students, so that they pass through all education level up until university level. And now there have been talks and discussion that the government is planning to also provide the university level so that they can also study abroad at university, not just in Indonesia. And of course, it also can cover other school-related costs such as the additional program, courses, school supplies, transportation, and many others. And the classification of the paper, as you can see, is that for number one is the primary school, or package A, get about 1.125 million rupiah package, and two is the package B, or the junior high school, they get 1.875 million rupiah, and third is the package C, or senior high school, they get 2.5 million rupiah. And this indicator, as mentioned before, is the one we choose. So average length of school, it shows the effective years of school completion by students. So the effective years means like the standard years they complete. For example, primary school is 6 years, junior high school is 9 years, and so on. And as you can see in the first column is the table shows at national level, both male and female students achieve around 8 years of completion of school, where male achieve about 8.83 years and female achieve about 8.17 years. Of course, that also differs for if they live in the cities or in the villages. And second row shows the economic welfare, where quintile is the economic welfare level. So quintile 1 is the lowest economic welfare up until the highest level, which is quintile 5. So it shows that the higher the quintile or economic welfare is for both male and female, then the longer years that they achieve to complete the school at. And lastly, the third row in the table shows that families' education level background also have impacts towards the students' educational completion length. So you can see that if, like, for example, the family background or the KRT kepala rumah tangga just finished primary school, then the students also just sort of complete the same length of school year, which is about 7 years. So if they complete university level, then they also complete up until the university level or about 13 years. Okay. And here are the factors that contributes to the number of differences of school completion length by female and male students. So the first one is that lack of ability is still mainly an issue for male students, where 10% of them drop out of school to work and earn a living, compared to female about 8%. And next, that culture is still a big issue, especially those in the villages, where they have a strong influence, and also early marriage is still a barrier for the students. And most early marriage cases can be found in cities like NTT, Indramayu, and those in the villages. And in Indonesia, there's still not yet a clear regulation for school support for students or children who are already married. And next is the safety issues and the distance of the trip to go to school. As you probably know that those in the villages like that, they have to travel far to go to school, right? It can be even in kilometers. And also the safety is still unclear for them. So the government needs to provide better access roads and safety for the students, so more of the students can go to school. And next is that the for those especially in madrasah, it the separate sanitation rooms is very important, where it's still limited of those lavatory available for the female students, which are used for like menstrual purposes and others. And also the lack of access to education, of the influence of the knowing that education is very important, still mainly exists in Indonesia, especially those in the villages. They think that they can their children can just work, but no, actually their children, the parents think that their children must earn education so they can do many other things in the world and open to success. And next year we'll discuss the evaluation programs of PIP and also improvements that can be done for better education developments in Indonesia. So the first one is that we all must, also the government must also influence and socialize more to both parents and students that education is key to the world, to key to success, also key to many other opportunities in the world. That's very true, of course, that's very clear. Next, we must also facilitate more Kartu Indonesia Pintar for students in Indonesia, especially those that still do not have access, that are those in the villages, that are in the periphery islands. The government needs to reach more and more for those students. And of course, actually, there's been great improvements of the number of students that receive KIP. Where the first time released 2014, only about 7.9 billion students receive KIP. But in 2019, about 17.9 million students receive KIP. That's very great improvement. Of course, there needs to be more and more students that receive KIP. Because out of the total students in Indonesia is about 50 million students. And next, the government must also provide better access for roads to go to school, better safety to go to school, which is very important, especially those in the villages where they need to travel far, even in kilometers. And also when we talk about the classification of AIP, we saw that for primary school they get about 1.125 million per year, and the junior high school about 1.875 million per year, and the senior high school about 2.5 million per year. That might be, of course, there is a big number for the government when you actually combine it with all 17.9 million students beneficiaries of KIP. But for each of them, it's relatively small, because like maybe they should increase it double the amounts for both for three of those classification levels. And this is also a big focus where the government should allocate more budget to the education, especially for the Tikp, because it's very important for the development of Indonesia. And next is we must carry out campaigns for everyone must help to carry out campaigns to socialize that early marriage is a problem. So because if the children is already married at early age, then they don't really have time to think about their education, and that's why they need to be educated starting from the parents too, that about the issues of early marriage and so on like that, where areas actually they need to focus more on to complete their education level first rather than other issues. And next is that there must be also clear teaching programs, implementation of Islamic teaching, especially those in madrasah, where the teacher itself need to differentiate, need to learn the more of the clear interpretation and teachings regarding differentiating regarding female and male, so that there it's a more clear understanding of what they can do to provide better facilities for male and female. And also the better access and also more lavatory provided will also be better for the female students, especially to rise up their education continuity level. Where based on research by Susna shows that if there is more lavatory provided, then 5% more of the female students will get through the education level until finish completed until the university level, compared to if if there's limitation of the lavatory levels. And based on all of our discussion from goal 8, which is decent work and economic growth, goal 9, which is industry, innovation and infrastructure, and goal 10, which is the ensure reduce inequality within and among countries, can conclude that we as Indonesians and also the government to support us, that we must all contribute and accommodate to be able to achieve all these goals so that we can make Indonesia as a better country, a more sustainable country for everyone and in all aspects as well. So that is all from our presentation. Thank you very much.